So, hello, everybody, and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Today we get back here, BSN Network. This is BSN Network Podcast here today. It is Wednesday, February 10th. I was having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Wednesday, February 10th today. We are now 10 days into February. We are getting closer and closer to the start of spring training in the MLB, which is really exciting. Super exciting. Which is right around the corner. About a week today, actually, is when spring training officially starts, when everyone should be at camp, and when the season gets its first part of it underway, with obviously spring training, and then spring training into, the spring training, and then into the games, and then into opening day, and then so on and so forth into the 162 game season, and then ultimately one goal. Everyone has the same goal, and that is bringing home the World Series trophy. That's obviously every team's goal. We'll see who takes it. A lot of MLB stuff. We're going to have a lot of MLB stuff coming on this podcast. MLB and football will be a lot. Football free agency, there's going to be a lot. And MLB, there's going to be a lot as well. With the season, any last-second free agent moves, spring training stuff, projections, different teams, Yankees, things like that. So there will be a ton of baseball stuff coming up. As for yesterday, nothing crazy really happened in the sports world. No really breaking news. Kentucky obviously lost. Nets lost. Nets lost to a terrible team in the Detroit Pistons. Just, taking these teams lightly. That's really the story of the Brooklyn Nets. Taking these teams lightly, not trying, in a way, taking these teams lightly, going out there and thinking it's going to be an easy win. It's just not going to work. It's not going to work out that way. We were 7-1 this season against teams above 500, and we are 5-7 against teams below, or 7-11. I'm sorry, we're 7-11 of teams below 500. So we're below 500 against teams below 500, or above 500 against teams above 500, which tells you something that we are seriously taking the harder teams. We were playing better against the harder teams, but we're not playing as good against the bad teams, and it's just because we're taking them lightly, and that's really is. And I look at it as every team's the NBA. Each player obviously has enough skill to play in the National Basketball Association, so you got to treat every team like it's the best team out there. That's what you got to do, because you also know other teams, they're going to give you your best effort, because you're the Brooklyn Nets. You're a good team. You're a big three. You're headlines everywhere. Every team's going to give you their best shot. So, you got to live up to expectations, and the Nets right now are struggling. As for Kentucky, just the same old with Kentucky, another loss. We lost by 1. We were winning, then we lost the lead, took the lead late, and then, we were winning the majority of the first quarter, or not the first quarter, the first half, and then we lost, and then we lost that lead. It was 36-15. We gained the lead again, then we lost it. And then, late in that game, it was like a 10-point game, and we had to crawl our way back, and we just couldn't finish. Kentucky, the big thing this season has been finishing games, and we have not been able to do that well. We got to find a way to get better. We have to learn how to win games. We have to learn how to take better shots, and there's a lot of learning on this team. And at this point, like I've said so many times in this podcast, at this point, I just want to see if this team can make any strides in the right direction to finish out the year. There's 6 games left. Why don't we go out on a high note? Let's win 4 of our last 6, or let's win 5 of our last 6. Why don't we? March Madness, I think, is completely out of the equation at this point. Even if we win our last 6 games, we're still going to be 11-13, which is below 500. And that would put us in a position to have to win the SEC tournament when we have to win the SEC tournament. There's no way they're going to bring us in as 11-13 basketball team. So we got to find a way. And like I said, out of these next 6 games, go 3-3. Why don't you? Or win a couple. Win go 4-2. End the season on a high note at least, right? But these are the topics for today. Obviously, I would love us to win all 6 of them and somehow squeak into the March Madness and win it all, but I don't think that's going to happen. So these are the topics for today. Jets rumors will be our first topic. The New York Jets have rumors have started to come out about the New York Jets and their possible free agent receivers who they want to get, who they're what's a possibility of them getting. So we'll talk about that. Juju Smith-Schuster, Will Fuller among the Jets' top free agent targets. We'll get into that. Then we got MLB projections, Yankees, Mets, and MLB. We'll get in a little bit more detail with the Yankees and the Mets, obviously. But the MLB projections yesterday. The MLB came out with a projections, each division projection, so how many wins you're going to get, your projection of winning the division, and how many losses you're going to get, and where you're going to place in your division. So some teams are at 100 wins, some teams are at 60 wins, other teams are at 70 wins. It's not exact, it's just a projection. Now that free agents winded down, now that spring training's kind of, low now, or head in the right, now that spring training's right around the corner, really just a week away here. Now that all that's coming and the rosters are pretty much all filled out, there's time now you can make predictions and projections because you got the full rosters. So I'm going to go through that, read each team's projections. I'll go into detail, but I'm going to really want to hone in on the Yankees and the Mets. The Yankees I thought was good. The Mets I didn't. I disagreed with the Mets. Personally, I disagree with the Mets. But that's just my opinion. I'll tell you why I disagree with them. But yeah, like I said, the AL and NL, they all came out with the projections. There's some teams, obviously your normal teams are at the bottom. There's some surprises. Like I said, this isn't how this is just a projection. So very well, the Dodgers, who I'm going to spoil it, on the projection of 102 wins, they're projecting them at. That is a very well possibility, but there's also a very well possibility that they lose 102 games. That is not going to probably happen, but who knows? Anything can happen, right? In sports, anything can happen in sports. So, any given game you could blow it or whatever, or any given game you can win, right? Whatever the case may be. But we'll get into that. Then to finish off, we got college basketball, Kentucky, NBA, NHL. And in fantasy and your rest of your New York sports update, Rangers play today. Nets, another back-to-back. They have the second half of back-to-back today. Rangers play, then the Nets come on. So that should be good. Rangers on today. Nets also on today. Knicks lost last night. And like I said, Nets, second half of a back-to-back, trying to avoid losing 3 straight. And the Rangers trying to get back into the win column after they lost against the Islanders the other night. So the Rangers are also, as our Rangers are going to try to bounce back there. So with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So Jets rumors, Juju Smith-Schuster, Will Fuller among New York's free agent targets. This is free agent targets. They were, according to multiple people yesterday, they were among their top free agent targets. Obviously, the Jets this season are going to look at a receiver. That's their really... Receiver is the Jets' one of their main needs. They need a receiver, especially what they're going to do with the quarterback. If they're going to bring back Darnold, they're going to want to build around him. And if they're going to draft a new quarterback in here, you're going to want to get a guy like a Will Fuller, someone like that, to be that reliable number one guy. Here's my personal opinion. As a Jets fan, really anyone, to be honest, that's how bad our roster is right now. Really anyone... Personally, really anyone would be an upgrade. I mean, you can even get down to the smaller names. Like, you can even get down to some of the smaller names, like a Marvin Jones Jr. or something like that, right? You can even get down to some of the smaller guys. Even like an Antonio Brown. Not that I don't want Antonio Brown on this team. I mean, if we get him, okay, but I don't like Antonio Brown. I'm just using him as an example. He's not one of those highly touted free agents this offseason, partially because he's getting older and all the stuff he went through, and either way, he's just not that, he hasn't been that good as like an Allen Robinson or a Kenny Galladay or a Will Fuller or someone like that. So really anyone will upgrade the team. Personally, my favorite receiver I would love us to get, I would want this receiver right now. If we had the chance to sign him, I would definitely take advantage, is Allen Robinson. He is probably at the top of my list. Personally. He is probably at the top of my list, I would say. He is definitely at the top of my list, would be Allen Robinson. Another one at the top of my list would probably be like a Will Fuller or something. Kenny Galladay. If we could get Kenny Galladay and Allen Robinson, that would be amazing. I just don't foresee us getting both of them. Reason number one, we're going to have to pick between the two, because if you're going to get Allen Robinson, you're probably not going to be able to get Galladay. And reason number two, the Jets might pass on Golladay just because he's had a really bad injury history. I mean, the guy is off 2 weeks, then he plays, then he's off 3, then he plays 2, then he's, whatever. He's so being on the field for him is very inconsistent. He's not a very consistent. He's very consistent when he's out there, but it's consistency being on the field at a consistent basis. I know it's a lot of consistent there, but it's the truth. Kenny Golladay has had a lot of times where he's out for a long time, then he comes back in, then he's injured again. He's had so many injuries. He's very injury prone, so it might be a little risky there. But I mean, when he's healthy, he's one of the top receivers in the league. So the free agent receiver class is really, really stacked this year. I mean, it really is. If you look at it, the free agent class this year is really stacked. You got guys like Golladay, Juju Smith-Schuster, guys like Godwin, Allen Robinson, Will Fuller. There's like 5 really solid receivers. And then you got guys like an Antonio Brown and some of these other smaller guys, but even like a Chris Godwin. I mean, he says the Buccaneers are planning on re-signing him, but let's just say they don't re-sign him, he could be another one, right? This is all projections, but this did catch my eye yesterday. The fact that the Jets were looking at their top. Now, this could also be rumors. This could possibly be, an insider. More than likely, it's an insider. This is more than likely an insider because it is according to ESPN's. This is are at the top of their list. So they are at the top of their list. Juju Smith-Schuster, Will Fuller. Here's my personal opinion. I'm going to get into the stats, and I want to read this article. But before I do any of that, here's my personal opinion on Will Fuller and Juju Smith-Schuster, okay? If I had to pick between the two, would I rather have Juju Smith-Schuster or Will Fuller? If they're at the top of the list, if I had to pick between both of them, I would probably go ahead and take Will Fuller. I've always said that. Not always said this, but if you don't know me, I usually root for anyone who's on my team. I mean, that might sound stupid, but it might sound stupid what I kind of just said there. But if you get what I'm saying here, is if a player joins the team, I'm gonna root for him. I'm not gonna root against them, right? I'm not gonna be like if I didn't like that player on another team when he joins the team, I'm gonna eventually start rooting for him. I'm not a huge fan of Juju Smith-Schuster. I've probably said it multiple times on this podcast. I'm not a huge fan of him. I was not a big fan of his whole dancing on the logos thing, his whole, some of the stuff he said in his press conference. I'm not a big fan of Juju Smith-Schuster, nor do I think he's that good. I think he's good. He's a good receiver. You can't take away from him. I don't think he's amazing. I don't think he's a star-studded top free agent out there. I wouldn't say that. I know a lot of people think that. I wouldn't so much say that. If he came to the Jets, would I be okay with it? Sure. As long as some of this other stuff gets cleaned up with him dancing on the logos, him doing all the social media stuff, if that stuff can get cleaned up, I would be okay with him on the team because he's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of skill. He can definitely make plays. Thing with Will Fuller is he's always kind of been quiet. He's not. Juju's more outgoing. And with the New York media, with everyone around you and stuff like that, being in New York and the New York media and being on the Jets and stuff like that, and I've always said New York is one of the toughest places in the world to play. I mean, it's the truth. New York is one of the toughest places in the entire world to play. With the media, all the pressure. New York. New York is night and day. You could either be, there's no in between. You could either be in the spotlight, everyone's hyping you up, everyone's going insane, this, and this, or you could be getting ripped. Everyone's like, oh, this guy stinks, this guy's terrible, trade him, get rid of him. You're, on articles or newspapers the next day, you could be on the back page and they're joking about you, right? New York's the tale of both of those. To be honest, Juju Smith-Schuster, I don't know if he would fit great in the New York media. I'm in the Pittsburgh media. I don't know correctly how they are because I don't talk about Pittsburgh sports that much. But, I just don't know how he would fit there. I don't know if he would be able to handle the pressure. Will Fuller, he can handle the pressure, I feel like. This has been a guy this has been a guy that's kind of been quiet. He's kind of been the secondary guy there in Houston. He was there all those times with DeAndre Hopkins. He was kind of the secondary guy there. I look at it as this. And like I said, you could be in New York and you could be dominant and you could be like a Juju Smith-Schuster where you're taking the league by storm like he did 2 seasons ago and everyone would be talking about you. But who knows what would happen there. Here's how I look at this. I look at this as the Jets are getting 2 good receivers. They're not getting an Allen Robinson, who I think is the best, maybe the best free agent out there outside of Dak Prescott on the market. You're getting 2 good receivers. You're not getting 2 amazing receivers. You're not getting 1 insane receiver and 1 decent receiver. You're getting 2 good receivers. You're getting 2 receivers that will be consistent, get the job done, go out there, do their thing, and whatever the case may be, go out there, catch, score, touchdowns, yards, whatever. That's what the Jets are going to get in these 2 guys, which I kind of like, because they might think of, instead of going out, and the Jets learned this their last time they had a ton of money in free agency when they went out and got Le'Veon Bell and C.J. Mosley, maybe the Jets should take a more of a quieter approach. Get some of the smaller name guys, a Juju Smith-Schuster, a Will Fuller, somebody else, a Godwin, even if you go to the defense side of the ball, a guy like a Shaquille Barrett, someone like that. Go out there, get some different, maybe not spend as much money, but go out there and get a bunch of good talent instead of getting one or two great players. Instead of getting Allen Robinson and 1 great player in defense, that's only 2 more players. Fill more of your needs. Get a good offense lineman. Get 2 good receivers. Get a good middle linebacker. That's what I look at it like this. I kind of look at it like that. I kind of look at it as the Jets aren't going out there and getting anyone special, but they're going out there and getting 2 receivers. I mean, we've seen Juju Smith-Schuster last year, not this year, but not this most recent year, the year before that. He was taking the league by storm. I mean, his jersey was flying off of, everywhere. He was going insane. I mean, he was the new best thing in the NFL. And then obviously this season he had a little bit of a down year, and obviously Will Fuller really has played really well. He's had a very good career. So, if the Jets get these 2 guys, I would be fine with it, because I look at it as maybe they're going out there spending money on, maybe they're going to go out there and spend more money on a guy like maybe they're going to go out and spend money on a guy like a defender, or, or whatever the case may be. But I look at it, I mean, you could even make a rumor up and say, if the Jets try to surround, if the Jets are looking at 3 receivers, you could even say, oh, well, they're bringing all these guys in, whatever the case may be. But I will tell you this, I think if we don't get 2 of them, we're probably getting one of these guys. It's going to be either Will Fuller or Juju Smith-Schuster. It's going to be one or the other. And like I said, if Juju Smith-Schuster can clean his social media stuff up, his dancing stuff up, because that stuff doesn't always pass through New York, with the New York media and stuff. That stuff doesn't always happen. So, you'll be with New York sports and stuff. That stuff doesn't always fly. That stuff doesn't always, work out. Right? So, we'll see how it goes. But Jets rumors, Juju Smith-Schuster, Will Fuller, among New York's free agent targets. Like I said, there's going to be so many of them. There probably will be, I'm sure the Jets are targeting 10, 15 players. But I'm sure they've got their core, maybe like they've got their 5 really players that they really want to set deals, and maybe the other 10 of them are kind of guys that they're going to look at, watch, but if they don't get them, it's not the end of the world. And that's what I mean. When it says top free agents, it usually means they're going to make a push for them. They might not get them, but it means that they're going to put in an offer. They're going to go out there, this money for this amount of years, they're going to put in an offer, right? They're going to do something, and they're going to make a serious push. Now, if they don't get them, then they don't get them, then they'll move to their next. Each team, and I've always said this about the head coaching searches too. Each team, you probably interview about 15 coaches, right? The Jets, I think this year interview about 12 of them. You usually interview about 10 to 15 coaches. Usually, that process, you probably have about 3 really solid coaches. You probably have about 3 core coaches that are going to probably be the best man for the job. And in the other 12, you give them a chance. If they really impress you, then you put them in. But usually before the coaching search, you always have those guys that, you probably have those guys like, okay, we got to target this guy. We're going to look at this guy. We're going to look at this guy. Usually they always have that. So the Jets right now are probably doing this. Like, okay, here are 10, 15 free agents we want, but let's zone in on these 5, and Will Fuller and Juju probably made the list. So let's read this quick article, and then I'm going to get into the stats of each player. By the way, Will Fuller's season didn't finish out the year. He got suspended, so he did not finish out the year. Juju obviously did. He made the playoffs and stuff, but Will Fuller didn't. So the stats might be a little odd, but we'll see how it goes. And like I said, this was kind of Will Fuller's first year of being a number 1 in Houston because Hopkins was there all those years. So, I think he did pretty well. I don't think, but I mean, for being a number 1, I thought he did pretty good. In terms of, if you want to get into fantasy football standards, he's had a couple of really good games. And he would probably be the number one for the Jets. Because then you got Mims and Crowder and an add-on Fuller. Crowder and Mims are your two main guys on that receiving core. Crowder and Mims. And then, you've got Perryman, who, you'll see what happens there. But like I said, this is all kind of just a feeling out process. Okay, we some of these guys are names like everyone's got Al Robinson go to the Jets. I think that's a very possible option. Maybe the Jets go out and get Robinson and they get one of these guys. They'll go out and either get a Juju or a Will Fuller. They're not gonna maybe try to get Robinson and Galladay, spend half their money and then have nothing else. Maybe they get Robinson, spend a lot of money there, and then get another receiver, and then maybe spend a good amount of money on the defense side of the ball, because the defense side of the ball doesn't need as much fixing as the offense. The offense side of the ball, we need a running back. Quarterback situation's a question. We need another receiver. We could probably use another offensive. Every position on the offensive in offense is literally a question mark, except our left tackle where we got Mekhi Becton, big Highway 77, like they call him. Big Mountain Becton, Mekhi Becton. He's really the only non-question mark on our offense. And Crowder and Mims. But other than that, Darnold's a question mark. Our running back's a question mark. We could even probably add on with another offensive lineman, although I would assume we go through the draft with that, because we obviously has had some success in the draft with our offensive lineman. We need a receiver. We need a lot, and that's why I think we might spend more on the offense side of the ball than the defense side of the ball, where it doesn't need as much work on. You spend some more, and then maybe you spend your money on the defense side of the ball, re-signing guys like a Marcus May, maybe giving Quinnen Williams a little bit of a lengthier deal, something like that. So after finishing with the NFL's worst scoring offense in 2020, the New York Jets are reportedly looking to add playmakers at wide receiver this offseason. Per ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Will Fuller are at the top of the list of players New York is looking at. Fuller also noted that Indianapolis Colts restricted free agent Zach Pascal is a second-tier option for the Jets. Like I said, you probably have about 10, 15, 20 free agents. Your first tier are probably about 4 or 5 guys. Your second tier is about 4 or 5 guys. Your third tier is about 4 or 5 guys. And that's probably it. You probably have 3 tiers. You probably have you might even be able to separate into 4 tiers. You're like the one guy you want to get, you need to get him now. And then you're kind of your other tier guys, and then so on and so forth there. Zach Pascal as well. Like I said, we might not get the best free wide receiver out there. We might get a bunch of good free agents, right? Not maybe the best guy out there, but we get a bunch of good guys that, when they combine, when they chemistry with each other, when they grow, they're really good. The Jets are looking to establish a new identity in 2021 under first-year head coach Robert Saleh. He filled out his staff with several members of the San Francisco 49ers group that he worked with under Kyle Shanahan. Remember, that group did go to the Super Bowl. Mike LaFleur, who was the 49ers passing game coordinator for the past 2 seasons, will be New York's offensive coordinator. San Francisco's passing game was heavily reliant on players who can pick up big yards after the catch, like George Kittle and Deebo Samuel. Smith-Schuster specialized in that area early in his career with Pittsburgh Steelers. He ranked 3rd in the NFL with 2.5 yards after catch above average as a rookie in 2017 per Football Outsiders. Pittsburgh's offense wasn't geared for explosive plays in 2021. With Ben Roethlisberger's arm strength limited coming off of elbow surgery, Smith-Schuster averaged a career-low 8.6 yards per catch, though he still led the NFL in catches from the slot 81 and touchdowns from the slot 9 per Pro Football Focus. Fuller is capable of making plays after the catch or stretching the field deep. Because of his speed, the Notre Dame alum set career highs with 53 receptions, 879 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 16.6 yards per reception as Deshaun Watson's favorite target for the Houston Texans in 2020. Like I said, his first season as a number 1 was really good. If he comes to the Jets and be a number 1, it seems like it would work out. November, Fuller was suspended 6 games by the NFL for violating the league's policy on performance-enhancing drugs. He sat out the final 5 games in 2020 and will miss the first game next season. So that did come out. Like I said, I said this earlier in the podcast. He got suspended, obviously, which isn't great. And same thing with Schuster, right? Some of the stuff, that's the one thing. With some of these guys, just their off-the-field stuff is sometimes the problem there. But the Jets could be an attractive option for anyone looking to score a big contract this offseason. Over the cap estimates, they will have $67.9 million in cap space. Jamison Crowder was New York's leading receiver last season. He finished with 89 targets, 59 receptions, 699 yards, and 6 touchdowns. So, so Juju Smith-Schuster, Will Fuller, among the Jets' top free agent targets. And I would assume they're among their top wide receiver targets as well. I mean, if they're among the top free agents, they're probably top receiver as well. So let's get this up here. We'll go with Will Fuller stats. And you think if Will Fuller plays those games that he didn't play in, if he plays those final, 5-6 games, then we'll see how that goes. But Will Fuller, this season, he had 53 receptions. That was tied 65th in the league. 879 yards. That was 30th in the league. 8 touchdowns. That was 15th in the league. Tied 15th in the league. And he averaged 16.6 yards per catch, which is 6th in the NFL. That was really good. That's another thing. These guys can stretch the field. They get the ball. They're a very good run after catch, which in a way the Jets did not have last year, which is why Jamison Crowder has been so dominant for the Jets. The Jets really didn't have that guy that could run after catch. And even Mims in a way. He's a good runner after catch, but even Mims, he's more of a deep ball guy. These guys, that's what Will Fuller can do. He can do deep ball, and he can catch that slot, catch that little in route, that little mesh route across the middle, and turn it upfield for about 16 yards we've seen. And like I said, this is a guy this season he had the most receptions out of any year. Obviously with 53. He also had the most targets this year, the most yards this year, the most average this year, the most touchdowns this year. I mean, the longest this year, right? It's just so crazy. He didn't even have a fumble this year, which is even better. He improved in almost every stat this year, and he only played 11 games. You imagine if he plays those other 5 games, what happens? If he plays those other 5 games, his receptions probably go up about 15, so he's probably about like 70 receptions. Probably targets, he's probably about 90 to 95. He might get 1,000 yards. His average probably will stay the same. He might get 2-3 more touchdowns. His long would probably stay the same. Fumbles definitely could go up or, stay the same. But like I said, if this guy plays a full year, you look at the numbers, are really good. And like I said, this has been a guy who might not be as talked about because the first couple years of his career, he obviously, really the first 4 years of his career, he was sitting behind DeAndre Hopkins. And now he's not sitting behind DeAndre Hopkins anymore. He's still only 26 years old. He seems older, but he did come into the league at 21, so that is pretty young to come into the league at 21 years old. So he's played 5 years already, but he's still only 26, so he's still pretty young. I mean, if you think about it, 26 is still young. Some guys come into the league at like 23, and then they're 5 years in and they're almost 30. So this guy's still got a lot of time to grow, a lot of time to develop, and if he turns into a number one with the Jets, he could show that he can definitely make an impact on the field. And as for Juju Smith-Schuster, we'll get this up here. Juju Smith-Schuster. His stats, what I would like to say is both these guys are pretty high on touchdowns. This season, they've both had pretty good touchdowns, so I would say that. Juju was top 10 in touchdowns this season. But Juju this year had 97 receptions. That was 9th in the NFL. 831 yards. That was 38th in the NFL. 9 touchdowns. That's tied 10th in the NFL. And 8.6 was average. Was 126th in the league. So he only averaged about 8.6 yards per catch. But the Steelers' offense only averaged about 8 yards a play. Steelers' offense this season wasn't great. He played all 16 games this season plus the playoff game. He actually had more catches than last year. More targets, more yards. Last season he only played 12 games, so he definitely was a little bit injured there. Played 8.6 yards per carry, which was a little lower this season. Obviously, he had the most touchdowns of his career this year, and his fumbles were a little up this year. He had 3, which it wasn't a great year for Juju, I will admit to that. But, if he goes back to his 2018 season, he had 111 catches, 166 targets. He had 1,426 yards. 12.8 was average. He had 7 touchdowns. I mean, it could have also been the fact that Roethlisberger wasn't healthy. It could have been that, and it also could have been, he had a little bit of, the whole, a lot of people talking about him and stuff, and his old dancing stuff, and even that stuff. But he's another one, too. He's only played, this is his 5th year. He's only 24. So the Jets are getting 2 young guys. To be honest, what the Jets are going to get here is 2 young players. Will Fuller, he might not seem young. He's going into his 6th year here, but he's only 26. So, he's only 26. So, I think his birthday's in April, so he would be 27 before the season starts. But right now, he's only 26 years old. So you're getting guys that are 26 and 24 years old. They're still young. It's not like you're getting a guy that's 35, you're taking a risk on him. You're getting a guy who's still young, and to be honest, in a way, it's almost like for Will Fuller, that was his first year. That was his first big year at being a number 1 receiver and did really well with it. And same thing with Juju Smith-Schuster. That was his really, same thing with Juju last season. Chase Claypool definitely had his moments there, and sometimes Juju wasn't able to get the ball as much. But, if Juju could go back to what he did, he's only, 2 years removed from that 2018 season where he took the league by storm. We'll see how it goes. But I think I think these would be fine decisions if the Jets get these guys. Like I said, I think as long as they keep the off-the-field stuff straight, I think if they could focus and they could just go out there and be themselves, just go out there and just focus on winning games and being the best player they can, this could definitely be a good deal for the New York Jets. So that's what I got for the New York Jets. That's what I got for those rumors with the New York Jets. And like I said, these are all, there could be millions of rumors. It's Darnold's right now. There's rumors going around about him. This really, I shouldn't even say is a rumor. It's kind of a fact. But, even just some of the rumors about Robinson going to the Jets, just stuff, just getting ready for the offseason, to really get into full swing. Like I said, I think this is going to be a really exciting offseason, especially that there wasn't that much that happened at the trade deadline. I think a lot of the stuff you're going to see happen in the offseason here. So it should be really good. And like I said, I'll keep you all up to date on the podcast. But for now, that is what I got for that. As for the MLB stuff, coming up next, I'm going to give you the MLB projections. So the MLB came out with the projections yesterday on what's it called? With the projections yesterday, the division standings, the amount of wins each team could get, and the division percentage of them winning the division. So I'm going to tell you each team, tell you why they're there, and stuff like that. Coming up next. Okay, so let's get this up here. Okay, so I first off want to say this. So this is it's a little interesting. But the AL Cy Young, I'm not going to spend much time on this, but this is the AL Cy Young favorites. So Garrett Cole is the favorite. Then it goes Shane Bieber, Lucas Giolito, Tyler Glasnow, Hyun-Jin Ryu, Jose Berrios, Lance Lynn, Corey Kluber, Kenta Maeda, Dallas Keuchel, Chris Sale, Marco Gonzalez, Jesus Luzardo, Framber Valdez, and then Luis Severino. And your NL Cy Young is Jacob deGrom, Trevor Bauer, Max Scherzer, Walker Buehler, Yu Darvish, Aaron Nola, Blake Snell, Jack Flaherty, Luis Castillo, Max Fried, Clayton Kershaw, Steven Strasburg, Charlie Morton, Brendan Woodruff, and Danielson Lamet. So those are your Cy Young. So Garrett Cole is the favorite for the AL Cy Young, which is great to see as a Yankees fan. 2 New York pitchers are at the top there. So let's get up this here. So yesterday, the New York Yankees and the rest of the MLB were people made projections on them about how the season's gonna go, each team's record, stuff like that kind of stuff there. So each team obviously made some moves this offseason. Some teams more than others. For example, a team like the Padres went out and made a big impact on free agency. A team like the Mets made a decent amount of moves and things like that. And Yankees, the Yankees made a good amount of moves as well. I wouldn't say they made the top moves out there. They made some moves that I think will help us. But now that free agency is pretty much done and over with, and teams now have pretty much all their rosters filled out and ready for spring training to start, we obviously We obviously now have our projections, our possibilities, all this stuff. I like to guess, project, like to look at possibilities for each team. It's especially fun to look at possibilities when your team is has a good chance of doing great. Like a Yankees or something, we have a good chance at making another playoff run this year, or even like a Brooklyn Nets, we have a good chance of winning the finals. The way we're playing right now, it doesn't look good. And in like a team, even like the Rangers, I want to see how we can improve. We have a possible chance of maybe being a top 15 team, right? So, and in the Jets too, maybe instead of being known as the worst team in the league, let's be known as an average team or a decent team or a team that can at least go out there and be competitive and make plays and look like a competent football team. And that's the same thing here with the Yankees. All I want is the Yankees World Series. All I want is the Yankees to go out there, give it their all every game, and really all I want is a team like the Yankees, people to stop talking about all this Yankees drought stuff of, we haven't won a World Series since 2009. Your 27 championships aren't, you're going to no longer win a championship that much. You went out and spent all this money and you have done nothing and all that. I'm tired of hearing all that because I want to see a New York Yankees win. So I like projections. I like to look at them. But at the same time, you got to come back to reality at times, because projections are, also computerized and stuff like that. And, you put the teams in, put the rosters in, go through the season, and here's what you come out of. So these are the projections for the AL, and then I'll head to the NL, and I'll kind of tell you some teams that I'm a little surprised with, some teams that I would disagree with, although it's tough to really disagree with projections, just because. But yeah, so here we go. So let's get into this here. So let's get into the projections here. So AL East. We'll start off with the AL East. Go from the top down. We'll go from the first team to the last team in the AL East. So here we go. The Yankees' projected wins this season, according to this site, this is it saying, let's see. Okay, here we go. So, New York Yankees are 97 wins and 64 losses. So they're projecting us to go about 97 and 64 with a win percentage of .601, and our division percentage to win a division is about 81.1% chance to win the AL East. So that's the Yankees. So the first reaction here to the New York Yankees I agree. It would be nice if we could win 3 games and get to the 100 win mark, because that is a very tough thing to do. People don't realize how hard that is to do, to win 100 games in an MLB season. I mean, it is a truly difficult thing to do. I mean, the season to begin with is a very tough, long, grueling season. But then they'll win 100 games. I mean, if you think about it, to at least win 100, you're winning. You're going to win 100 out of a 62. I mean, that's insane. Even some NBA teams can't even hit that in 2 years when they play 82 games, right? So 100 games really is a true, even if you go, whether you go 162 or 162 or 110 and 52, whatever, or 105 and whatever, right? Whatever the way it is, if you can hit 100 wins, that's always a true goal. I would say this is a good, this is the sim. This is according to their projection here. I would say this is a pretty good thing for the New York Yankees. 97 wins, 64 losses. A division percentage would be about 81.1% chance to win a division, which I think is very, very, very good chance. With our guys like LeMahieu, guys like Corey Kluber, and guys like that, I think definitely can have a really good shot at winning division. So I would say the Yankees, that's pretty accurate. And I might touch back on them a little bit more here. And then the remaining of the AL East would be 80. The sim was Rays had won 86 games and they lost 75. So they went 86 and 75. So 11 less wins than the Yankees and 11 more losses than the Yankees. So about 11 games behind the Yankees, and they would have 11% chance to win a division. And then as for the Blue Jays, they have them going 84 and 77. By the way, with the Rays, I would say that's about a good prediction. I would even say here with the Blue Jays being 84 and 77, I would even say the Blue Jays might be in front of I would even say the Blue Jays, I don't think it would be outrageous for them to finish in front of the Rays this season. I mean, they've added George Springer. They've got guys like Springer, got guys like Guerrero, got guys like Bo Bichette, guys like that. And if they make any little final additions here within the next, couple of days here until spring training starts, they've got a really young minor league core, which is really going to help them, not just this season, but in future years to come. And they've got young guys, Vlad and Bo Bichette and guys like that, who have, kind of developed into these really, really good baseball players. And I think that would be, I think there's a definitely good shot that Toronto challenges the Rays for that number 2 seed. And I think there's a good shot that Toronto could very well, I think it wouldn't be outrageous to see that Toronto hit the 90 win mark this season. But 84 and 77, I think is a pretty good prediction here. And then Boston Red Sox was 80 and 82. Which I guess is also pretty good, I would say, about 80 and 82. I mean, I would even say the Red Sox, since they're in a rebuilding mode, even go down about 5 games, maybe be like 75 and like 77 or something. Something like that, even if you just drop, or 75 and 87, even if you just drop a couple games, and I'm not just saying that because it's the Red Sox, it's the truth. They're going through a rebuild right now. So I don't know, 80 wins, that would be a lot for them. I mean, maybe even 70 or something, somewhere around there. But I agree. I think the Orioles and the Red Sox are going to kind of be replacement holders. And then Orioles will be 66 and 95. That's what they said in this. Their win percentage was 409. Which was, that's another good prediction for them. Maybe the Orioles maybe drop a couple games, maybe like a 63 and 98 or something. Or, maybe even they go against 62 and 100, or maybe they go, maybe they'll win a couple more games. The Orioles always seem to have the Orioles, even last season, they seem to always start off the season not too bad. The first 10 games, they'll come out like 6-4, 7-3, and then they just start dropping games left and right. So I would say the Orioles would be probably about 66 and 95. I think that's a good prediction there. So that's your AL East. The projection is the Yankees, Rays, Blue Jays, Red Sox, and Baltimore or Orioles. And then the Yankees would be your division winners. And as for the AL Central here, which is a very odd division because every year it seems like all those teams are in it. As for the AL Central here, you have the Twins start off the voting or the projections here with 90 and 71. So they would win about 90 games, lose about 71. Their winning percentage would be their division percentage to win a division is about 60.8, and their winning percentage would be about 5.59. I agree with this. Kenta Maeda, guys like that. The Twins are an interesting team because the Twins are a very interesting team because they show the playoff success isn't there. They get to the playoffs and then they just blow it. I mean, we saw it with the Yankees. They got to the playoffs and they just get crushed against us. I don't know if it's just because they play us and it's the Yankees and stuff, because the Yankees have been able to dominate the Twins in the playoffs. I don't know what it is, but something about the Twins in the playoffs just don't go together well. So I could see the Twins winning the division. But then it goes Cleveland and Chicago, and I actually disagree with this. I would say Chicago would probably win the AL Central. I mean, people have Chicago winning the World Series. You're going to put them third in the AL Central? That doesn't make too much sense to me. I would go ahead and say I would put Chicago in front of Minnesota, put Cleveland at number Cleveland, with all they gave up this year, I wouldn't be surprised if Cleveland finishes 3 or 4. I wouldn't be surprised if the Royals come around and maybe hit the 3. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. And I know I said it a lot here, but this division's so stupid. This AL Central, it's so weak. Your division winner comes out here with like 85 wins. It's the weakest thing in the world. AL Central, I would say, is kind of a weird division here, because I can make the argument that the White Sox win a division. I can make the argument that the Indians win a division, and I can make the argument that the Twins win a division. This one's going to be tough, because like I said, the White Sox with Anderson, Giolito, guys like that on their team, add Lance Lynn in this offseason, guys like that, right? It could get interesting. I would probably go in and say then the Indians were right behind them with 87 and 76. White Sox were 83 and 78. Royals were 70 and 91, and the Tigers are 66 and 95. I agree with all those. And the Tigers, kind of funny. Their division, chance of winning the division is 0.1. That's how bad the Tigers are. So that's probably your AL Central. The only thing I would change here is I would probably put Chicago at number 1, Minnesota number 2, and I wouldn't be surprised if Cleveland falls to like 4. And they go like 70 and 90 or something, and they fall to 4. Or even if the Royals maybe go like 75 and like 86 or something like that. Even if it's just a smaller change, I could very well see that happening. Like I said, even if it's just a simple like a 75 and 86 or something like that, or something like that, I could very well see it. But yeah, I would. The Indians gave up so much. Carrasco, Lindor, and they didn't get much in return. They didn't really get much in return. So we'll see how that goes. And as for the AL West, it was Houston at 93 and 69. Angels at 86 and 75. A's Oakland was at 79 and 82. Mariners were at 69 and 92. And the Rangers were at 67 and 94. So I'm going to be the first one to say it. I think the Oakland A's win way more than 79 games. I'm not going to put money on it, I'm just joking, but I would put money on it that the Oakland A's win more than 79 games. This is the team that made the playoffs last year and made the playoffs the year before that. Why are they all of a sudden going to go 7? They didn't. They still got Chapman. They still got Simeon. They still got guys like that. Why would you all of a sudden go ahead and say, I get it, they lost some of their stars for, Fry and Fried and stuff like that. I get it. But this was a team last year that they lost to the, let's see here. Dodgers, Rays. Yeah, they lost, or they beat the White Sox. And then they went on and obviously lost to the Astros. This was a team that went to the ALDS last year. So they're going to win 79 games this year? And you could go ahead and say, oh, well, they gave up some stuff in the offseason. Yeah, they did. But their farm system's very good. You bring guys up, they develop. I would put money on it that the Oakland Athletics win more than 79 games. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to put money on it. I'm just kidding by that. But I would. I'm going to tell you that the Oakland A's I would say that the Oakland A's are going to win more than 79 games. I would go ahead and say they win maybe 85. And I'm not trying to hype them up and saying they're a World Series team. I'm just saying they're a lot better than 79 and 82. Houston, I agree with. Angels is odd. This is odd with the Angels. I mean, Angels, I would say that the A's are in front of the Angels. I mean, what have the Angels done in the past couple years that they stink? So they're all of a sudden now going to win 86 games? I disagree with that. And the A's, I think, should have a way higher percent chance than a 4.8% chance. So, AL West, I'm going to disagree with. I'm going to go ahead and say it should be the Astros, A's, Angels, and maybe even Texas Rangers in front of the Mariners. Because the Mariners just stink. The Mariners flat out terrible. They are flat out horrendous. The Mariners are. They are flat out horrendous. And Rangers at least have some light at the end of the tunnel. Because they've also got a good farm system. They've also got Gallo and some of these other guys like that. But the Mariners, every year, it seems like they just take a step backwards. So I wouldn't even be surprised if it's the Astros, A's, Angels, Rangers, then Mariners. Because it seems like the Mariners are been a little bit. I shouldn't say. I mean, the Mariners, when they had Cano, they had a couple, good runs during seasons where they'll make things interesting. But the Mariners, something about it. They're almost like the Raiders in football. They have a good couple strong games, and then they just look flat, like the Raiders do. The Raiders start off like 6-4 every season, and then they just finish 7-9. Same thing with the Mariners. I remember though 2 years ago when Cano was there, the Mariners had like a really solid. They were going really, really good. They were looking solid and stuff, and then all of a sudden it was like they just fell off the earth. They fell off the face of the earth, and they didn't even play. They just stunk the rest of the season, and ended up missing the playoffs. But that's your AL. So your AL division winners, according to this, are the Yankees, Twins, and Astros. I would go ahead and say it's probably going to be the Yankees, White Sox and Astros. I don't see why the White Sox, everything they've done this offseason, all this hype up, and they're going to finish third. I would think they definitely have a good shot at winning the division. And as for the NL, for the Mets here, they have the Mets winning the division, which I think is completely outrageous. 95-66. So 2 less wins than the Yankees. And I disagree with this. I'm going to be the first one to say it. The Mets are not finishing I don't think the Mets are going to finish in first place. How in the world can you put the Atlanta Braves in 4th place when it's 82-7? How can you put the Atlanta Braves, a team who made the NLCS last season, and they only lost, they blew a 3-1 lead, I get it, but they were 1 win away from making the World Series, and you're going to put them at number 4? No. It should go Braves, Phillies, Washington, Mets, then Washington. Maybe Mets and Washington. They put the bottom 2 teams number 2, top 2. The Mets and Washington, they should be 3 and 4. The number 2 teams should be the Phillies and the Braves. It should be Braves, Phillies, Washington, Mets, Miami. Maybe Mets in front of Washington. I could very well see the Mets this season finishing 84, something around there, 85, maybe 81, 80 something. I don't foresee the Mets winning 95 games this season. Outside of Lindor and 3 other smaller moves, who did they get? Nobody. Okay? They didn't get Bauer. They didn't get Real Muto. They didn't get LeMahieu. They didn't get Springer. Those are guys that you missed out on that would get you to 95 wins. If Bauer was on this team, I would maybe go ahead and say, okay, 90 wins. 95? After last season, they missed the playoffs yet again? No, disagree. Nationals, 85-77. Phillies, 83-79. Braves, 82-79. And Marlins, 68-93. I know there's a lot of Marlins fans out there, with them obviously, making the playoffs and stuff last season, making the play-in series. I don't think they're going to do much, the Marlins, to be honest with you. I really don't. I think you can eliminate the Marlins here. They had a good season last year. I think they're going to be at the bottom again. So I would go ahead and say this division is going to be the Braves, the Phillies, probably the Mets, then Washington, and then the Marlins. But even Washington and the Mets can be flipped. The Braves, I think, are going to win this division. That's what I think. NL Central is the Brewers at 88-73, Cubs at 85-76, Cardinals at 80-81. Reds at 79-82. Pittsburgh at 61-100. So I agree with about 61-101 actually. So I agree with this whole. I agree with the Pirates. They stink. They're going through a rebuild. I agree with that. I would go ahead and say St. Louis is number 2. Cincinnati might be in front of the Cubs, and Cubs might be 4. I think it could very well be the Cardinals after they add an Arenado. Cardinals, then Brewers, then Reds, then Cubs, then Pirates. And the reason I say the Reds here is I understand they lost last season. They lost Bauer last season. This offseason stuff. But other than that, they really didn't lose much else. They lost Bauer, but other than that, they haven't really lost that much else. They haven't really lost that much. So I would go ahead and say it's probably going to be the Cardinals. The Cardinals, no way they finish under 500. 80 or finish at 500, 81-81 with Nolan Arenado on that team. No way. I think the Cardinals could very well win the NL Central. And then as for the NL West, you got the Dodgers at 102-59. Or 102-60 it should be actually. You got Padres at 95-66. Arizona at 79-82. Giants at 75-86, and the Colorado Rockies at 60-102. So I agree with that. I agree with all of this, actually. This is the only one I can agree on. I can agree Dodgers, Padres, Diamondbacks, San Francisco, and Colorado did everything they shouldn't have done this offseason. They should be there. So the champions of each division, I think, will probably be Braves, Cardinals, very good shot after Arenado, Cardinals, and then the Dodgers. And obviously the Yankees as well. So, that's what I got there. Now let's get into this. Let's see here. Let's get college basketball up. Kentucky with another tough game. College basketball yesterday. Alabama won, Texas won, Creighton won, and West Virginia won. Kentucky also lost yesterday, 81-80. Kentucky moves to 5-13 on the season. I mean, we've tried almost everything. Different strategies. This. Move this player here. Put this player here. We've tried virtually everything. It's just not working. Kentucky, we need to find a way to get back on the right track. That's pretty pivotal with Kentucky. But that's really what I got for Kentucky there. Like I said, I mean, it's just, I might not seem like it's not that I just don't really know what to say. I mean, this team just has to learn. And they've got to learn how to win. They've got to learn how to close out games. They've got to learn how to make shots late in games. There's a lot of learning to do. And they fought. They fought yesterday, and I can't take that away from them. They definitely fought. But this is a team that's got to learn. They're going to have to practice. They're going to have to look at film. They're going to have to watch over themselves because this isn't what Kentucky basketball is all about. Kentucky basketball is using winning. It's usually top of the nation. It's usually top teams in the league. And I understand Duke's also struggling this year, and North Carolina's had their ups and downs. And the three big blue blood schools in North Carolina, Duke, and Kentucky have all struggled this year for the most part. North Carolina's starting to turn it on. But other than that, Duke and Kentucky are both below 500. Duke losing yesterday puts them at 7-8, and Kentucky's been pretty much at 500 the entire year. I mean, they beat Morehead State the first game of the season, and the rest of the games they just lost. So Kentucky's got to find a way to get better. But like I said, these next 6 games, we got Auburn this week on CBS. These next 6 games, look at it as, let's finish the season strong. 4-2, 5-1, ultimately 6-0. But let's finish the season strong, right? Let's end on a high note. All the bads that we did this season, all the things that went bad this season with this team, 5-13 record's not good. All that stuff, let's finish on a high note and go into the SEC tournament, hoping for a miracle. That's all I could really say. But these are the games on today. Houston, South Florida, give Houston the win. Virginia, Georgia Tech, give Virginia the win. Rutgers, Iowa, give Rutgers the win. Tennessee, Georgia, give Tennessee the win. Villanova, Marquette, give Villanova the win. Ole Miss, Missouri, give Ole Miss the win, and Wisconsin, Nebraska, give Wisconsin the win. And as for the NBA here, yesterday, the Heat won, Pelicans won, Warriors won, 76ers won, Jazz won, and Trailblazers won. Nets lost yesterday, 122-111. We moved to 14-12 on the season. We got to get better. That's another one, too. I really don't know much what else to say there because we've got to find a way to get better here. Today, Raptors, Wizards, Raptors win. I give Raptors win. Mavericks, Hawks, give Mavericks the win. Clippers, Timberwolves, give Clippers the win. Grizzlies, Hornets, give Grizzlies the win. Nuggets, Cavs, give Nuggets the win. Bulls, Pelicans, give Pelicans the win. Bucks, Suns, give Bucks the win. And Lakers, Thunder, give Lakers the win. So the Nets play today. Nets come in this game 14-12. Pacers come in this game 12-12. This game is Nets are 1.5-point favorites. The over/under is 235 for this game. This game comes on at today, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Yes Network. You know what? I'm going to give the Nets the win, and here's why. We're playing a team that's 500. We're going to play a team that's going to be competitive. So we're going to be competitive because that's how the Nets work. And as for the NHL, we've only got 2 games on today. Maple Leafs, Canadians give Maple Leafs the win. Or Canadians to win. And then today the Rangers also play today. Rangers coming in this game 4-5-1. Bruins coming in this game 8-1-2. The over/under is 5.5 for this game. Today 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on NBCSN. So nationally televised game. I'll give the Rangers the win. Just Georgiev, I think, is in that here. Rangers better offense here. That's what we got to do there. Alrighty. So let's see. So as for fantasy basketball, I am winning 454-450, so close game there. And these are my players today. I've got Kyrie Irving, Bradley Beal, Anthony Davis, Jonas Valanciunas, Trae Young, Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, and Miles Turner. And my bench, obviously, is the rest of the players. Injury update here. Anthony Davis is day-to-day. Davis' Achilles is questionable for Wednesday's game against Oklahoma City. So we'll see how that goes. And yeah, And now fantasy hockey here. I'm winning in fantasy hockey 57-49, so going pretty good there. Today I've got Mika Zibanejad, Artemi Panarin, Jeff Petrie, and Shea Weber. And my injury report is Shea Theodore's day-to-day. Theodore, undisclosed, didn't finish Tuesday's game versus the Ducks. Jesse Granger of The Athletic reports. John Gibson's also day-to-day. Gibson face won't suit up for Tuesday's game against the Golden Knights. Elliot T. Ford of the Orange County Register reports. So that was yesterday as well there. So yeah. So that's what I got for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Another good podcast. Like I said, we're gonna be talking a lot of MLB coming up here. There's gonna be a lot of good MLB stuff coming up here. Should be fun. Spring training right around the corner. MLB season really right around the corner. I mean, spring training is pretty much here. MLB, I should say, is right around the corner. This season's right around the corner. Spring training is literally a block, you could say. Right, spring training, or the regular season's right around the corner. Spring training's like a block away. It's literally, a few more steps and we're already going to be at spring training because it's right around the corner. Obviously, February 17th is when it starts. Today's February 10th, so officially a week today. Spring training will start. Everyone should be reported at camp. Yankees obviously in Tampa. And obviously your rest of the Yankees in the Tampa. Rest of your teams in Arizona. And I'm excited. Tampa, watching the Yankees play in Tampa is always pretty fun. They've got a pretty nice facility over there. So yeah. So with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Tomorrow will be another good podcast. Any other news, topics, stuff like that. So, should be good. So, hopefully you all enjoyed it. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.